Welcome back, toy fans, to episode 208 of Reynolds Reviews. And on today's episode, remember a few weeks ago when I said I'm collecting 4 new toy lines in the room? Make it 5. Cue the march. Welcome back, everyone. Now, like I said in the intro, today I'm going to show you a 5th new toy line that I'm also collecting in the room. I've no idea what I'm doing. At this point, I have no room. But sometimes I just see things and I get impulsive and I've got to do it. And in the last few weeks, I've done it once again. Now, this particular toy line is a line that I never expected to pick up. Like I said, it was quite impulsive. I saw a couple of these items selling on eBay. I ummed and ahed, and before I knew it, they were gone. They sold really quickly, and that got me thinking. So I jumped onto eBay to look for this particular line. There wasn't much doing on eBay, but then, of course, jumped onto Vintage. You know, that used clothes app that nobody looks for toys on. And I found a job lot of this particular toy line. But not only did I find a job lot of this particular toy line and pick it up, I also saw an opportunity for another Reynolds wheel and deal. Let's go take a look at the particular toy line I'm talking about.
You've done it again! You've said it again!
And I'll explain a little bit more about it.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
And there we go, folks. So obviously you'll have realised it by now, but the new toy line I've picked up and that I never expected to pick up is the 1983 Terrahawks figures. Now, these were released by Bandai and the show hit our screens in 1983, and the show was created by Gerry Anderson and Christopher Burrs. Now, Gerry Anderson is probably the name you recognise the most there because he was also responsible for shows like Thunderbirds and Stingray back in the day. Now, these shows weren't really my cup of tea. They were a little bit too warm and fuzzy for me. I weren't a massive fan of those, but I was a fan of the more darker shows, so things like Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, and I really liked Joe 90 as well. But out of all those shows, my favourite was the Terrahawks because, again, it was dark and sinister, and one of my favourite things about the Terrahawks was also one of my least favourite things about the show, and that was the main villain, Zelda. She was awesome, but she scared the crap out of me. She was so scary. But, like I said, Bandai released some figures in 1983 and I managed to pick up a job lot recently. So we're going to start with Dr. Neinstein. And Dr. Neinstein was the leader and commander of the Terrahawks. And here he is. Now let's just start with the card backs. I absolutely love this card back. I love that neon pink grid, that huge pink T up the centre of the card, the massive Terrahawks logo across the top with the characters underneath. I think just looks absolutely awesome, and I think these card backs are wonderful to look at. I think the colour scheme works so well, and yeah, really impressed. But let's take a look at Dr. Neinstein himself. So there he is in his navy blue jumpsuit, silver boots there. I think you can just see inside he's got his wrist communicator there that would go on his arm. And the one thing that I noticed straight away about this figure, now the likenesses aren't fantastic, you'll see that more as we go through the video, but one of the main things that I noticed about this figure was he's got light grey hair, whereas in the show you can definitely see he's got grey hair, but it's much darker. And on the figure they've given really white sort of grey hair, which I think just needs to be a lot darker. But the figures aren't bad, 5 points of articulation, you know, they're very basic, very simplistic figures, but I do think there's a charm to them. Now, one thing that I didn't realise about Dr. Neinstein until I started sort of looking into this show and doing a little bit of research was Dr. Neinstein's voice was actually based on Jack Nicholson. Now, I had no clue about that and I would never have realised that, but once you know it and then you hear his voice again, you can definitely hear the resemblance.
And 100 Zeroids can't be wrong.
Neither can our sensors. Hero, lock onto that energy source and blast it.
But yeah, I've got to admit, I saw these go, and I misspoke in the intro actually. I said that I saw 2 of these figures go really quickly on eBay. It was actually on a Facebook group, and I ummed an ad and they went really quickly, which is kind of what inspired me to search for these. But I've got to admit, they're not the best figures in the world, but there is a real charm to them, and I absolutely love these. So the first pickup was Dr. Einstein. Let's move on to the next one.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
Okay folks, so the second figure we're going to take a look at is Captain Kate Kestrel. Now, Kate Kestrel is number 3 in command when it comes to the Terrahawks, and she is the main pilot of Hawkeye. And again, just a really, really nice figure. Now again, the card backs are all the same, obviously apart from the name. Now I love the card backs, but you have to think, would they have benefited from the sort of Star Wars style? So if each card back had an image of the figure or the character, if you like, on the card back, so each one was different, whereas they're all the same apart from the name. I'm not sure that might have worked, but like I said, I do love the cards. And this figure is quite unique. She sort of stands out from the rest, really, because as you can see, she's got that really bright pink jumpsuit and matching pink hair, and she looks quite different from the rest of the characters. But the unique thing about Kate Kestrel in the show, she actually had a double life. So in her civilian life, if you like, she actually doubled up as a famous pop star, and she often used to take a break from the Terrahawks and go off and record songs with her recording agent, and her recording agent was called Chick King, which I thought was quite amusing. But yeah, this is Kate Kestrel, and I really like this figure. Now as you can see, the bubble is quite yellowed, but you can see inside she's got that bright pink jumpsuit, pink hair, she's got a communicator there as well. And like I said, the simple figures, 5 points of articulation, but there just is a charm to them. And I really, really like them. So, yeah, that's Kate Kestrel. Like I say, we're going to fly through these now because I've got a few figures to get through, but I am then going to talk to you about a deal at the end. So let's move on to the next one.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This here's an emergency.
Okay, folks, and now we're moving on to Lieutenant Hawkeye. And I quite like the fact that they give him that sort of Hicktown sort of accent. I think that was quite cool. But Lieutenant Hawkeye is the co-pilot of Hawkeye along with Kate Kestrel. And Kate Kestrel and Hawkeye in the show have quite a close bond. In fact, I can't remember which episode it was, but in one of the episodes, Hawkeye actually sacrifices himself to save Kate. So they're very, very close in the show. And this is a really cool figure. I like the sort of maroon jumpsuit that they've given him. And the figures actually only come generally with one accessory, which is the wrist communicator, but Hawkeye comes with this huge blaster, which is quite cool. So I really like this figure. Like I said, the cards are all the same. The one thing I haven't shown you, actually, I haven't shown you the back of the card backs, which I will show you on this one, but I'll just show you it once because they're all the same. But this is a really cool figure. I do like Lieutenant Hawkeye. Like I said, I do like the accent they gave him in the show. And he was the co-pilot with Kate Kestrel on Hawkeye. So I'll just show you the back of the card. So there's the back of the card. Again, quite nice. Like I said, they're all the same, so I'm only going to show you it once, but we've got a breakdown of all the characters that were available at the time. We only got 8 figures, and as you can see, very good guy heavy. We only got one villain in Zelda. We didn't get any other villains, so people such as Sistar and Youngstar, which was Zelda's sister, and Young Sun. We didn't get those. We only got Zelda. The rest were good guys. So, but it is a really cool card back. Again, we've got each character in like a cartoon image, and just really, really cool. So yeah, that is Lieutenant Hawkeye. So let's move on to the next one.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
Okay folks, I'm moving on now. We've got Lieutenant Hero, and Lieutenant Hero was the commander on Space Hawk. That's where he was based, and Lieutenant Hero was like the brains of the outfit. He was the brains, the technical genius of the Terrahawks, and he was the one that solved most of their problems whenever they had any. And I actually think out of all the figures and all the characters, this is probably the best likeness. With his dark hair and glasses, he's got that dark green jumpsuit, again with his communicator. And I think out of all of them, this is possibly the best sculpt. I just think it's quite a good likeness. And as a figure, I think it looks really cool. So again, of course, we've got that same card back aside from the name. But yeah, Lieutenant Hero, I think, is a really cool looking figure. And again, just really pleased to get him into my collection. I am only missing one figure from the bunch, which I will show you at the end. But yeah, I'm not going to show you the back of the card back because again, they're all the same. But of all the figures that I've picked up, I actually think this is the one that represents his character the best. Like I said, he was the brains of the outfit, and most of the problems the Terrahawks faced, Lieutenant Hero was often the one to solve it. So there we go, that is figure number 4 into the collection. Let's move on to the next one.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
And there we go, folks. So now we're on to Zelda. And Zelda was the main villain of the show. And like I said, I used to think she was awesome, but God, she scared the life out of me. She looked so horrible. Super wrinkled skin and just, oh, that voice and that laugh. She was horrendous. But this was the only villain in the line that we got from Bandai. And unfortunately, she's probably one of the worst sculpts out of all the figures. So as you can see, she's all dirty and sort of grubby, which again is in keeping with her in the show, but her face sculpt isn't too bad. But they've sort of mucked her cheeks, which all just looks a little bit like when you're a kid and you just played in the dirt and wiped it all over your face. It just kind of looks like that. But her hair is really flat, whereas in the show it was all over the place. It was really spiky and stuck up everywhere, where it's just very much flat on the figure, so it doesn't really represent an accurate style. Her outfit is solid plastic, whereas I think it would have really benefited from soft goods, very much like the dress they gave Marion Ravenwood with the Kenner figures. I think Bandai could have done a soft goods dress, but instead we've got a hard plastic dress with like a vinyl cape at the back, very much like the Star Wars figures. But I think they could have given her a grubby soft goods dress, like I said, in the style of Marion Ravenwood from the indie figures. I think that would have worked really well. So unfortunately, this is probably the poorest figure in the lot, which is a real shame considering she's the only villain we got. But I do like Zelda as a character, really cool. And yeah, unfortunately, she's the only villain we got. We didn't get, like I said, any of her siblings like Sister or a young son at Youngstar. Very imaginative names, aren't they? But yeah, there's Zelda. We're now going to move on to the Zeroids.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
Okay, here we go, folks, and we're now on to Sergeant Major Zero. And Sergeant Major Zero was the leader and commander of the spherical army that the Terrahawks used to have at their disposal, and they used to send these guys in to do recon on certain missions or go anywhere where they couldn't go, so different planets and things that was difficult terrain. This guy used to go there with his team of Zeroids and carry out any missions that the Terrahawks needed. Now, if Sergeant Major Zero's voice sounds familiar, that's because you're probably right. So Sergeant Major Zero was voiced by a very famous British actor called Windsor Davies, and he was very well known for his role as the Sergeant Major in an old British TV sitcom called It Ain't Half Hot Mum, and he's very famous in the show for screaming at his soldiers.
Oh, Mr. Lardy-Dar-Gunner Graham, what did you think you was doing sitting down by there drinking tea? Why wasn't you whitening them stones?
I'm terribly sorry, Sergeant.
Shut up!
But this is Sergeant Major Zero, and like I said, you often saw these guys on the show rolling around and bouncing around on difficult terrain and places where the Terrahawks couldn't go, and often carrying out missions and recon for Dr. Einstein. But really cool, and obviously these are very accurate because, you know, it's basically just a ball on a stand and you've just got to sculpt it with their eyes. Now, it looks like the shutters do work on that, so you can close their eyes so that when they're rolling around, they never used to bash themselves in their faces, so they used to close those on the show to protect their eyes while they're rolling around. But it's a very, very cool figure, and just quite a cool, unique thing to have in the figure line, to have a couple of these Zeroids, because they were a major part of the show, and Sergeant Major Zero is very, very cool. Yeah, this was the leader of the spherical army, and a very, very cool addition to the collection. But we've got one more figure to go, folks.
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
And the final figure, folks, in the collection is Space Sergeant 101. Now, another part of the spherical army, one of the Zeroids, but this guy was based on Space Hawk with Hero, and 101 was like Hero's right-hand man. He used to help him out on Space Hawk. I always found it quite amusing that they gave 101 quite a camp voice, though, in the show. But yeah, we've got two Zeroids in the figure line, and I just think they're really cool. They're just quite a nice addition to have with the figures. They're just really in keeping with the show and with the line, and yeah, really, really pleased to get this guy into the collection as well. But like I said earlier in the video, there is one figure that I'm missing. So there was 8 figures in the line. The one figure I'm missing is Mary Faulkner. Hopefully I can maybe pick her up at the NEC in the next few weeks. But really, really happy to put these figures into my collection. But you will recall at the start of the video, I did say that not only did I pick up a new toy line, there was another Reynolds wheel and deal attempt in there as well. So let's get everything back on the table and I'll explain a little bit more about it. And there we go, folks, everything back on the table, and I think you'll agree, once they're all stood together, how good do they look? I can't wait to get these in some cases and get them on display. Hopefully I'll pick up Mary Faulkner at NEC. But yeah, really, really pleased with these pickups. But right at the start of the video, I did say to you this was also part of a Reynolds wheel and deal. Now, if you follow the channel closely, you'll know that in recent weeks and months, my toy budget is getting more and more modest every month. And what I'm doing now is looking for opportunities to get things into my collection for as cheap as possible. Now, you may recall a couple of months ago, I bought a couple of job lots of G.I. Joe vehicle pieces. So the Tiger Cat and the Snow Cat, I managed to put together 2 complete vehicles for significantly cheaper than buying complete, which was the plan. So I put that down as a success. Then after that, I picked up a job lot of 18 figures, sold 4 of the figures, kept 4 of the figures. And again, the plan was to get them into my collection for as cheap as possible. I knew I wouldn't get all my money back, but to try and make it as cheap as possible. I got those into my collection for the equivalent of £3.75 each. And when I bought this job lot, the idea with this one was to get them into the collection for free. Now, when I bought this on Vinted, I actually bought the job lot and there was 14 pieces, there was 14 items in the job lot. I wanted to keep the 7 figures and the 7 vehicles I planned to sell. Now, there was 4 Terra pens, so they're novelty pens that looked like Terrahawks ships, and then there was 2 die-cast vehicles and a wind-up battle tank. So I sold all those, and the idea was, once I'd done a little bit of research and looked at selling prices, I was convinced I could get all my money back and get these figures into my collection for free. Now, I paid in total £160 for the lot for 14 items, and when I sold all 7 items, I actually made £120 back. Now, I didn't sell them for quite as much as what I hoped, so I made £120 back, which leaves me a deficit of £40. Now, when you divide £40 by the 7 figures you can see in front of you, that works out at £5.71 a figure. Now, when you say it like that, it sounds like an amazing deal, because these kind of go roughly on eBay for around the £30 to £40 mark carded. Zelda can often bring a little bit more, so when you say it like that, I've done an amazing bit of business. However, I'm actually putting this down as a Reynolds fail. And that's because, like I said, with the G.I. Joe Snowcat and Tiger Cat deal and the 18 deal, the plan was to get them into my collection for as little as possible, and I managed to do that, but I knew I'd have to spend some money. So I'm putting those down as a success, whereas this I'm putting down as a fail, because in the end I spent £40. Now, when you break it down, £5.71 per figure, that's what it works out at. It's a great deal, but the plan was to get these for free. I was convinced I could get all my money back by selling half of the job lot and get these in my collection for absolutely zero, but I've ended up spending £40. So even though it's a great deal when you break it down, I'm putting this down as a Reynolds fail. Now, jump in the comments and tell me if you think I'm crazy to do that, but I feel like I've failed on this one. So yeah, £40 is a great price still, but the plan was to pay nothing for these, and unfortunately I didn't manage to do that. But still overall very happy, but I was hoping that I could get these for nothing. But there we go, you win some, you lose some, folks. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by and giving me a shot. I hope you'll consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if you're one of my existing viewers and existing subscribers, thanks for sticking with me, folks. I really do appreciate it. Leave any comments or questions in the comment section below. I read everyone's comments and try to get back to everybody. And as always, keep collecting. I'll see you next time.